Hello, and welcome to Bro Beats World, a Boy Beats World fancast. I'm Siege,
And I'm TC.
and thanks for joining us again. TC, I have to say, this was such a joy. It literally brought a joy to my day watching this episode.
This episode on the fence.
Well, yeah, like not only like just getting back into it. I tell you, like I had like a really long day, and like to just go back to something that was so wholesome and so like just not the world I'm currently living in. It was like it was funny. It was what I needed. Like at this,
You know, I have to say that now that we're past the pilot and we're getting into this first season, I am really relearning what this first season of the show was. Like, it's so completely different than the rest of the show. Not bad in any way, just so different.
you know, you're very accurate. I mean, I think seeing what it started off being, and you're right, revisiting the first season is good because you see the foundation, you see the blueprint of what they wanted to do, and I really am enjoying it.
Yeah, no, again, it's nothing that's like drastically different. I mean, the characters are still mostly the same with the exception of Eric, obviously. But just the focus tends to be much more on the family as a whole versus Corey's individual problems or his friends' problems, issues with him in school, which tends to take up a majority of the story. This one actually focuses on him and his dad, which is great. I don't feel like we get a lot of father-son episodes later on. So that's great to see Alan in the mix because he's fantastic.
Yeah, that's actually really good. Which brings us to our segment, Tell Me About It, where I read the Hulu description of the episode and TC comments on it. So I do want to say the Hulu description of this episode is Corey paints shutters to repay his father. And what did you think about that?
Is that accurate?
No, it completely misses the mark. I read.
Yeah, I don't think that's right.
This is so misleading. It's like someone skimmed over this. I feel like someone just fast forwarded through it without even the sound on. It was like, this is what it's probably about.
I would probably do like Corey learns what it means to be an adult when he gets his first job, or I don't know, something like that. But something more playing on the whole idea of him being a kid and wanting a job.
Yeah. Which, by the way, I have to say, I looked into it and I just thought about it, and I was like, all right, last week we dealt with love. This week we're dealing with finances. It was swinging for the fences when it came for like season. This show,
and some of the ways that they discuss like being an adult and what that means as far as your money is so accurate.
Yeah, dude, we hit some real world.
It touches home.
All right, so we open up in the cafeteria and we have a new third seat.
Right away, we have a new third chair kid. Right off the bat.
Third seat kid, a black third seat kid,
A black third chair. That's how I refer to him in my notes as
that's
black.
I notes as well. Black third seat kid.
So right off the bat, we've immediately recast the other third seat kid. He's gone. And the episode opens with them talking about superheroes as their parents.
Yes, they do. It's like, which superhero would you want for your parent? And Black's third seat kid says my answer, which is Batman, which I absolutely,
Because they wanted to do the whole Batman and Robin thing. Yeah.
Batman and Robin.
But Corey says he was like, I'd like to have Superman for a dad. And Sean's like, no, he could see through walls. You wouldn't get away with anything. But Corey just kind of really settles on that. No, I really like Superman as my dad. And then we are introduced to Stuart Minkus.
Okay, so before we get to Minkus, I want to say a few things. One, which superhero would you want as your dad? As I said, that was my answer, and I really, really enjoyed it because I love how into these conversations the kids get. It's like Reddit forums before Reddit, and like They have like logical reasons behind their answers, and I think that is Awesome. Also, I wanted to say, what would your answer have been? Like who? I mean, like of course you know how it plays out, but
If I could choose a superhero as a father, I mean, they're probably all pretty bad dads, I would imagine. Maybe Iron Man just for finances. Like, I feel like he just let me buy stuff.
you know what? I'm not gonna lie. That's another thing that I thought of. I was like, this shows you kind of like how 90s centric we are because it's Batman, like DC universe is who they bring up, and Marvel's not that big. Whereas now I feel like the conversation would completely lean toward Marvel.
Yeah, I mean, I do feel like there are points in the series where they're like talking about like X-Men comic books and things like that. But you're right. I mean, in the 90s, we're just coming off of Tim Burton's Batman movies. This is a DC decade.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so and then as you said, we are introduced to Minkus.
Minkus. Oh my gosh, this guy. This kid immediately breathes in a freshness into the show. He is so instantly funny and charming, and I love seeing him on camera.
Well, yeah, Minkus, like I made note of this, but Minkus is a fully realized character. Like he is developed in this scene, and he's developed in this
more so than the other characters, like more so than Shawnee.
Yeah, more so than Dirty Kid. I mean, which is why he's gone. But like,
yeah.
Like Dirty Kid doesn't have the same just gravitas that Minkus does. Like he doesn't have
it just feels like Minkus is like they know what they wanted to do with that character. Clearly Third Seat Kid is just meant to be just kind of like this nameless like other friend of Corey's. But Minkus has like a trope. He has, he's involved in the classroom discussions. He's involved in the water war. He's in the mix,
Exactly.
Speaking of that water war, did you have this growing up? I don't know.
We will way too quick, but we will talk about the water war. But what brings us to Minkus is in fact the fact that they Third Seat Kid. Well, no, is it Third Seat Kid or is it Sean? Someone antagonizes Minkus.
No, yeah, Sean's like, hey, check out Minkus. And what is he doing that they're making fun of him?
They knew something. They attacked Minkus, and he goes, "I wouldn't do that if I were you." It's something with water, and I only know this because I remember when he.
Oh, I think they're like, do they like throw like a fry at him or something? And then he's like, "Oh, I have oh no." Sean squirts him with the water gun.
Yeah, that's what he just pulls out his water gun. Exactly, and then that's when Minkus goes, "I wouldn't do that if I were you," and he pulls up his trombone, which of course he played the trombone, like he.
Yeah, was it a trombone? It looks massive.
It's a trombone case. Like,
trombone case. Yeah.
He pulls that case out, and then he pulls out the 200X hydrosaturnator.
What is the actual point in carrying around a trombone case filled with a water gun at school?
Well, again, what it looks like is there's an upcoming water war that everyone in the school is aware of, and you can see this because then Black Third Seat Kid pulls out his Hydrosat 3000Z, which again I loved because everyone in this universe has prepared for this upcoming water.
Keep in mind, they all have their water guns on them at school. This water war is at least 2 days away.
Yeah, well, I love it's a funny thing because Corey goes, like, they're all comparing their gun sizes, literally, and they're comparing their gun sizes, and Corey says, you can get a well-placed water balloon, will give you just as much splash for your cash.
Yeah, he's trying to fill up the water balloon in the water fountain, and then he turns around, everyone has their gun out, they squirt him until he's soaking wet.
Exactly, then he goes, like, everyone will have a water gun, and he turns around and everyone in the cafeteria, every child in the cafeteria has one, and it's hilarious. They all attack him. This is literally peer pressure, like peer water pressure. It's a fantastic little moment.
And he's so fit. And then Mr. Feeney comes in and he sees Corey.
Wait. So when Feeney walks in, what I love about this, and kids immediately go silent. They put the guns away. And
yeah, it's everything. It was just a water war, and it immediately stops with Feeney.
It's the kid code, which I love that they allude to this. But like, Corey is soaking wet, and he doesn't even rat on anyone.
No, he just tries to play it cool.
Again, everyone in this world is in on it. They're like, look, if we're gonna make it to this water war, it's got to be a Fight Club type of rule. You don't talk about it with adults.
And then Mr. Feeney goes up to the water fountain and he takes a sip and he looks at Corey and says, the water fountain's not a toy, Mr. Matthews.
yeah, exactly. And it just kind of ends with Corey soaking wet. And this kind of sets up our premise of the upcoming water war, which again, you have to say this episode could have been like Water Wars. I don't know.
The description is off. It's way off.
So, and then we do our theme song. I will say we didn't mention this before, and I don't know if you know a lot about this, but in the theme song for the first time, I noticed April Kelly's name, and I always associate Boy Meets World with Michael Jacobs. But who's this April Kelly? Do you know anything about that?
April Kelly, I believe, producer, right? She's the writer producer.
It's co-producer, yeah, executive co-producer. Yeah. And I just didn't know what the story was because again, I know Michael Jacobs. Like I am completely familiar with his story in Boy Meets World, but I noticed April Kelly's name and I was like, oh,
well. Wikipedia says that April Kelly co-created Boy Meets World, so that's something that I'm finding out because I thought this was just Michael Jacobs' thing.
Exactly. So I wanted to give her due because I feel like,
yeah, you know what, April Kelly, congratulations for contributing to this amazing show, and the rest of your filmography is also beautiful. So good for you.
Yeah. There you go. All right, so we open up on the scene at home.
And we see Alan coming home.
Alan comes home and the toilet needs fixing. And that's Alan immediately comes home. Amy's like, look, you got to fix this. You got to fix that.
And he immediately does it. He doesn't think twice about it. He doesn't complain. He just goes, all right, I'm on it, grabs his tools and heads upstairs to fix it. He's not at any point, you don't see him being bitter or upset that he has these responsibilities of being a father.
Well, there is a tinge of like that adult. Okay, it's just like a deep.
Sure, yeah, like almost like laughing at it though, but it doesn't seem like he's actually like he doesn't mind being a dad.
Yeah,
no, I don't get that vibe from him.
Yeah, and so immediately Corey enters the room and he's complimenting his mom and saying all these nice things. Amy,
well, he sees. I'm sorry. Before we get there, Alan goes upstairs to fix the bathroom, and Corey tries to stop him, and he's like, "No, I don't have any time." And Corey's actually complaining. He's like, "Oh, you just got home from work, and you're already moving on to your next thing," complaining about it.
Yeah.
Not understanding that he's helping Corey.
Well, yeah, of course, because as a kid, and like I think it's important to note that as a kid, that's exactly what you would do. You don't understand the gravitas of like the bathroom needing to be fixed.
Well, I think too, it goes towards Corey's arc in this episode that his dad is doing something immediately after work for the family, and Corey doesn't appreciate it at this point in the episode. Later on in the episode, he grows to appreciate the work his dad does.
Exactly. Freddy foreshadowing. But anyway, all right, so anyway, Amy immediately knows something's up with Corey, and Eric calls him out. It's like, it's uncanny, isn't it? He's like, do all women have antennas hidden somewhere on their bodies?
Oh, that's a great joke.
Yeah, and Eric's like, I don't know. None of them will let me look. And
I wrote that joke down too. It's stupid.
It's stupid, but it's funny. And it plays into who Eric.
This whole episode was real jokey. Just real like, aren't I a kid and aren't I cute saying the things I'm saying cutesy?
Exactly, of course. Corey's scheme is spoiled by Morgan's constant asking him why, because Corey is setting up and
Corey tries to convince he tries to convince Amy that they need a water gun in the house just in case there's a fire. And Morgan's asking all these questions, why? But honestly, what does Amy eventually say? I don't remember what her response was.
Well, no, so what it is like she
finds out how much it is.
So what happens though is that Corey is trying to convince Amy that he needs a water gun in order, to save and protect the house. And he pulls out this catalog for a water gun because in fact she's just entertaining him. She knows that he completely wants something.
Well, at first she's like, oh, I'll get you a water gun, sure. Like, she doesn't think anything of it when she thinks it's probably like a $12 squirt gun. But until he whipped up this catalog that had this $49.99 plus tax price.
Yeah.
But she's like, no.
Yeah, she's like $50, which again, I have to admit, for a kid, you're like, $50, that's nothing. And as an adult, I was like, yeah, dude, I ain't got $50.
No, not for a water gun. No, bruh.
Dude, barely for, like, I don't know, a concert or anything. Like, something, I mean, I guess, like, they would do the same recreational things, but, like, $50 is a lot. And I don't
like, we can get you a water gun and then return it when you're done.
Oh, yeah, I see, but they didn't, I mean, they're trying to sell wholesome fun. They're not really trying to teach us how to cheat the system, which is totally what we would do.
That's exactly what we did, bruh.
But anyway, so... and Corey even goes, you and Dad spend more of that on food, and I love that little as you said, it's a joke, but it's also an understanding of like how money works.
Yeah, Corey's definitely has a very naive approach towards money at the beginning of the episode, and I think that Ben Savage is just so great. He does a great job of just selling us on all of this that may have seemed a little too silly and cutesy with another child actor.
So what I really like about this is we are getting hints of the family's financial position right now. They are middle class, but they are like not extravagant. They're not like the typical middle class TV family that I see or that I'm used to seeing on television. Because you have Alan fixing the bathroom sink, you know, it's like $50 is a lot. We're literally going into the cost of being a family with 3 kids, and that's not something you see very often.
Yeah, and also Amy doesn't work yet. No,
actually, yeah, I don't think she does. I think there's just one salary.
Yeah, because I think she's home with Morgan. I feel like whenever we see her, she's home with Morgan.
That's the point.
Yeah, it's really just Alan in his grocery store gig.
Yeah, and it's a $50 toy is expensive, and again, I think of shows like Modern Family or
oh my gosh, the houses on Modern Family are absurd.
Yeah, I mean,
compared to this,
anyone owning a house now is just a fable to me.
Yeah,
but I mean, like the houses that they have, and usually like any couple who's not in an apartment, and even if they are in an apartment, the idea of like a $50 toy is not really seen as extravagant.
Well, what they say is exactly what my parents would have said, which is it's kind of expensive maybe for Christmas, Corey.
Yeah.
And he makes that joke about how like, oh, I'll be that kid spreading pneumonia around in December with my water gun.
Yeah, no, but
that's when you would get something like that expensive. You would have to wait till Christmas.
But yeah, what I'm saying is for me, usually on television, an expensive toy is like a PlayStation or like, you know, it's something that's like,
oh, I see what you mean. Yeah.
We would consider expensive, but they do have 3 kids and $50. I have 3 kids in a house and like all this other stuff.
Well,
is a lot.
Eric does have his own job, which we learn.
Well, in the next scene, Corey goes up and he's like, if they can't afford to buy toys for their 3 kids, why did they have them?
And then we find Eric laying on his bed playing with a 90s Apple Watch.
Yeah, it's like that whole, I can't think of what they're called. But yeah, he has like the little smartwatch thing. He's trying to program Heather, who's still around.
Now, when we say smartwatch, guys, this is 1993. This is really like those like Game Boy type of video games that were all green.
Yeah, well, this is like one of the, like, it's a smartwatch because it has a calculator on it and like it plays.
Yeah. Yeah. It might play like a little like MIDI tune, but like you're not listening to songs or anything on this.
Yeah, no, this is way, way before the iPhone was even like thought a possibility.
Sure, yeah.
So yeah, Eric has a job, and they say that Eric just cashed his first paycheck, but in the last episode, we said he bought Phillies tickets with his.
Yeah, they didn't think that through.
Well, one thing,
he got a new job.
We know for sure that Boy Meets World is not the greatest with consistency.
Nope.
They just got to do what they need to do. But anyway, Eric has a job, and he's talking about using his money. And then that's when Corey tells him that he has a great investment opportunity.
Well, Corey's kind of taken back. He's like, "Your mom and dad just let you buy that?" Like, he couldn't believe that. He was like, "I can't believe that mom and dad just let you spend your money on that." And Eric's like, "Well, it's my money. They said I could spend it on whatever I want," which I think is what plants the idea in Corey's head that he needs to get a job as well. Because I mean, obviously, we're not quite there yet, but Corey does kind of have more of a motivation to look for work after speaking with Eric.
Oh yeah, you're right. This is where the seed is planted that financial independence comes from working, which is true, but there's just so much more to that. But this is a very childlike understanding of how work works and how finances work. Is just like, oh, if you have your own job, you get your own money, you can spend your own money any way that you please. And I think that's a great way to introduce it. So the next scene that we have is Amy and Alan together in the kitchen, and Alan just goes, "You had to have a house."
Yeah, remember the apartment? Remember how great the apartment was?
Remember before the kids? Remember before we met? It's just like, good times. And I actually thought that was like a fun little bit. But also, it's also very, very true. Like, I remember now, or not even I remember, one of the biggest memes now is like, do you remember like kindergarten when you could take naps and there was no work?
Oh yeah, so many member berries. It's
yeah, member berries for sure. Yeah, but so Corey comes down, he's like, "Dad, you busy?" And Alan's like, "Nah, just hanging out with my wrench." And
yeah, he's fixing the sink while Corey's trying to ask for a job at the grocery store for the
exactly. He goes, and Alan's response is immediately, "No, you need to enjoy being a kid." Which, again, the truth in this little dynamic right now could not be bigger. Like, as we just talked about, all any of us want to do right now is go back to that carefree time before bills and when recess was like the number one priority. And Corey's like, "No, let me in." And like, as an adult and as a viewer who's an adult, I'm like, "No, stay out.
Stay as long as you can. You don't know.
It's a trap. Don't do it."
Well, and it's one of the notes I wrote was this exchange between him and Alan where Corey's like, "I want to be able to afford stuff," and Alan goes, "So do I."
Again,
I was like, "Yo, how come I didn't listen?" Like, that's it.
Yeah, that's honestly, this is so true. And I want to be able to afford stuff. So do I. Is a dynamic that I think you can only appreciate as an adult viewer, because you think that joke as a kid.
No,
but also,
you do not.
Right here, we kind of hinted at it earlier, and you mentioned it. We explore Alan's career. He's a market manager, which again, I think we don't see enough of. We don't see enough everyman jobs like this. Like most TV shows, they're a business owner, they're a police.
Yeah, they're like an ad exec. They're something sexy. They're not anything that's like a supermarket manager isn't a very sexy job.
Exactly, but I love that. It's very I mentioned it earlier, it's very middle America. It's very real. And I think that's
I will say this is the exact job that my father has.
Oh, really?
This is my connection to the show growing up, was that my father managed the supermarket. And so that's how I like related to the show.
That is crazy. I didn't even know that. Wow, you do have a lot in common.
I'm telling you, son, it's woven deep.
But see, that's what I was saying. I was just saying that it's very real, but like, I mean, it is. It literally reflects your life.
It's legit real. Yeah.
I will agree. I know a few people, and I think we have a few friends who like, their parents were police officers and a few who are doctors, but you don't like television has you believe that all of those are like the careers that you have to go in. And to see Alan be a market manager, not a market owner. He doesn't own the store. He's a manager there.
Yeah. I mean, and you think about that even compared to like Danny Tanner, who's like the host of a television show.
Exactly.
Like super sexy compared to like the market guy.
Yeah, exactly. I what I like about this even exchange is Corey goes, "Why don't you just fire someone?" And Alan has that whole frustrated dad thing. He's like, "What if I just fire myself?" And Corey's like, "Yeah, what does that pay?"
Yeah.
And Alan's response is, "Not enough to keep me out from under the sink or car or mortgage," which again,
Yeah, just really just hitting on some Bill drama. Like, I hear you, Alan. Middle America's hard.
Yeah. But he does, I will say, as far as tradition goes, Alan does have the American dream. He has 3 kids, he has a house. But it is,
Well, yeah, this is also like, yeah, they're kind of complaining about how they have to do this stuff. But I mean, when you think about later on when we're introduced to Sean and his family, and then we get that reality check and realize, wow, Corey does actually have it very, very good.
oh yeah. Well, what my point to this is that what we're seeing here is that an American dream comes at a cost. I don't think you really explore things like that. It may even be mentioned in certain children's shows, but I don't think you really explore the concept of, hey, we have a pretty good life, but that's because we work towards it. I mean, I think even think about the Cosby Show where they have that whole lesson about money. It's like, the parents are like, we have money, you don't. And that's usually the lesson. It's never, no, even adults with money struggle.
Well, the Matthews don't have Cosby money, or Huxtable money, I should say. That was a doctor and a lawyer. Like that's money that Amy and Alan don't have.
But I'm just saying, the lessons that it's trying to teach are,
Sure.
All right, so and now we go. I mean, we want to Corey bothering Feeney.
Well, one of the notes I took was that this is our first time of Corey visiting Feeney at the fence. This is our first time seeing that.
On the fence.
And Feeney, of course, is working on his garden, talking about his flowers, and just doing his whole Feeney advice garden thing.
Yeah, and this is actually really funny because if this is the first time, then they really do keep that throughout. And I think maybe because this episode it's so successful that they're like, we gotta get this dynamic back. Like this,
Sure, yeah.
it's very, very a great thing. I mean, clearly it was thought of with the mere fact that they brought up the fact that Feeney lives next door. But
Yeah,
it's empathy.
and what I think we're seeing here is the fact that it's when they had the teacher live next door, they planned on doing more with it than just having him be next door. Like he's very much involved in the home life of Corey as much as the school life in some ways, which is a good thing and a bad thing.
Yeah, I definitely like it. So Corey is bothering Feeney, trying to see if he can get some money to buy the $50 water gun. So he kind of comes up with
Oh, I'm sorry. Right before we get there, I just want to say something real fast. Feeney's saying that he's in his garden trying to relax because he has to grade a bunch of essays, a bunch of 6th grade essays on Edgar Allan Poe. And they're going to have this funny joke of Corey going, man, that Edgar Allan Poe guy was such a freakoid. And Feeney goes, you have no idea how big of a freakoid he was.
Yeah, no, I liked that.
But this does answer one of the questions that we had in the last episode, that they are in fact in 6th grade.
Why is this? How do you get that correlation?
Because Feeney says he's like, I have to grade all of these 6th grade essays.
Oh, okay.
Like you'll like the essay I wrote.
Okay, I thought you were saying that 6th grade is whatever.
Oh no, it's not the Edgar Allan Poe year. Yeah, I don't know. It's nothing like.
I was like, what? What kind of 6th grade class were you taking?
But yeah, because we were kind of curious as to where they start and where they are time wise, because it jumps around a bit. But this year we are in 6th grade, which I'm assuming is one of those schools where 6th grade's in grade school. It's the last year of grade.
Exactly.
So,
Yeah, exactly.
but anyways, you're right. Then he goes and he starts asking Feeney for a job.
Yeah,
I've been out of work for 11 years.
Which is a great joke.
A super cutesy joke.
Yeah, I mean, and I think they write these because Ben Savage's delivery is so great.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah. But all right, so sorry, I'm still laughing over it. Corey comes up with his own little scheme. He's like, if you pay me $50 now, I'll shovel your driveway all winter.
And Feeney's like, I'm not doing that, bro. That depends on the weather. That depends on a bunch of other factors. I'm not doing that.
Yeah, there's so many variables. And so he counters with, I do need my shutters painted. And
which
I love it.
Corey agrees to do.
Oh wait, I gotta get through this because I bought it because it's so fantastic. He goes, I need my shutters painted $5 a piece. And Corey goes, I'm not doing all that work for $5. She goes, no, Mr. Matthews, it's $5 a piece, 2 per window, and there are 8 windows. And Corey goes,
5 times 2 times 8.
what is that?
8.
All right, so thanks to that is, one, it took me way longer than I want to admit to get the total, which is $80. And then additional, it's that classic children don't do math trope, which is,
I think it looks poorly on Mr. Feeney as his educator for Corey to be that bad at math.
no, because what Mr. Feeney says is, you're worth every inch of that C plus I gave you. And I think that's the point. Feeney,
Cold as ice, Feeney.
it's nice to know that you are, when you got that C plus, you earned it. You were due it.
Well, Feeney doesn't correct him. He agrees to pay him $58, but that's exactly what he ends up paying him.
And I think that was very fantastic. That scene we see is like Corey completes the work, and I have to admit, for $58, that was a pretty
There's a commercial break, right?
Yeah.
And there's a commercial break, and when we come back, the job is done, and Feeney's kind of looking over the fence, or looking over the shutters and being like, oh, you did a really good job. I'm surprised. Like, Alan comes out, and he's like congratulating, like, hey, Corey did such a great job, Alan. You should be proud or whatever.
I say that it actually looks fantastic. Like, I mean, clearly someone else did do it, but for what we're supposed to believe, Corey did a great job painting those shutters, but there's only one but, and that is that he has used a spray to paint the shutters, and the spray has gone through the fence, and there is paint on the Matthews side of the fence. And Feeney's kind of like, well, he did a good job doing what I needed him to do. And
Corey does that classic sitcom kid lead into the commercial break line of, I'm going to be late to the water war, aren't I?
Yeah.
And kind of winks almost to the camera.
Yeah, that is very Dennis the Menace or Leave It to Beaver.
Leave It to Beaver, totally. Well, I will say this, something that you'll love about the commentary that I've been hearing and of Michael Jacobs, the creator, is that he was obsessed with the show Happy Days.
Oh yeah.
So as you watch the show, especially when we get to like 2nd, 3rd, 4th season, when they go to high school and there's all that kind of like Harley Kiner grease soda type of
that's on your bring it out.
And it is so obvious the Happy Days influence that you see, but so this could simply just be a callback to those 50s sitcoms.
Yeah, I mean, and also it's a nice for a children's show. There's clearly a Tom Sawyer like parallel that they're trying to do, which we are about to mention. And I thought it was like a nice twist on the having to paint the fence trope.
Sure.
But that means, so Corey has to paint the fence, and then we get the 3 guys from school showing up because it's water war time.
I will say this. Amy says when she sees the shutters just before that, she goes, Corey says, no one told me the paint would go through the shutters. And then Amy goes, does the sunlight not go through the shutters when you open them?
Yeah, that's
a really smart ass thing to say.
Well, it is, because at this point in time, what I love is it's just like an accepted where Corey's intelligence, and they're like,
well, he says, I'm an idiot, and she goes, no, you're a kid, and he goes, I'm a kidiot. A really dumb joke.
That's a little cheesy, a way more cheesier than I would like it to be.
But you know what? Ben Savage sells it, bruh.
He kind of does.
All right, so you're right. The Sean Minkus and Black Third Seat kid that come over to get Corey for Water War.
Correct. And
Corey immediately tries to Tom Sawyer them.
Oh, yeah. Well, so what he does, 2 things. One, Minkus is in a full rain suit, which I love because, of course, Minkus, again, as well thought out as this character is, he is going to participate. He's going to join the water war, but he's going to do so thoughtfully. And then he kind of roars, and Sean says it brings out the beast in Minkus, which, again, I love that. I just love this little dynamic. But then... yeah, she tries immediately to Tom Sawyer them, which I caught right before the commercial break that we were gonna do in a parallel. And Minkus is like, "Am I the only one who read the reading list?" Which, yes, you are.
So, okay, this made me ask the question: did Corey read Tom Sawyer?
Oh yeah. See, now I agree because remember, Corey's the good kid. He read it. I don't think he got what he was supposed to get from it.
Did he? Because he got a C+ in math. He thinks that 5 times 6 times 8 is 58.
So I don't know if you've read it, but that part is really early in the book. So I think Corey read half the book. Again, it's like Corey didn't see how this played out. He was like, "Oh, this is a great way to get other people to do what you want them to do."
I just think that it's interesting that his character, like they're insinuating that Minkus is the only one who read it because he's the smart kid. But if Corey read it as well, then maybe Corey's smarter than he's letting on. I don't know. For his character could have that reference kind of locked and loaded.
Yeah, I just personally don't think. It's actually now
I'm supposed to think that Corey is just as like savvy as Tom Sawyer, so that's how he kind of landed in that same mindset, like how intentionally referencing it.
I think you could go either way with it because one way to interpret it is that Corey's not smart enough to come up with a scheme on his own, and therefore he read partially the book, and that was his influence. But another way of reading it is Corey is kind of a Tom Sawyer-y kid at this time, so the fact that he could be in the exact same mindset is completely plausible.
Sure.
Okay, I love this. Minkus completely calls him out. He's really like this. He's trying to trick us, and Corey's like,
"Well, it's interesting because before Minkus calls him out, Black Third Seat Kid and Sean are kind of down to help him for.
Yeah, I think they almost bought into it.
Yeah, I'm way down, bro.
They're almost into it, and then Corey's like, "Who are you gonna believe, me or the banana?" And immediately they're like, "I'm gonna go with the banana. I don't know much, but I feel like Minkus is a little bit up on this."
Well, like Minkus is the one who's advocating for play, and Corey's the one advocating for work, which is a complete role reversal for the two of them. So you can understand why Sean and Black Third Seat Kid are like, "No, well, let's roll with the banana."
I really do love that his name is Black Third Seat Kid.
Don't worry, he's Black.
It's just
Black Third Seat Kid, if you're listening to this, reach out to us. We want to talk to
you. Black Third Seat Kid is he is full on like 90s black kid. Did you see that whole Def Jam look he had going on?
He did have a complete Def Jam look. He looked like he just stepped off the set of My Brother and Me.
He did. Oh my God, My Brother and Me. That's hilarious. My sister loves that. I mean, I did too, but
we all did, bro.
Man, I gotta check that out again. So Minkus negotiates that they stay until lunch.
Well, Corey offers to pay them. He's like, "Listen, guys, I have $7 left after I bought my water gun. I will give it to you guys." So 3 people agree to split $7. Kind of get an idea age-wise where they're at. If you agree to help me out, and then they say, yeah, they'll stick around until lunch.
Exactly. And then I love this is a very small little scene, but I think it's adorable.
Morgan and Eric?
Yeah, Morgan. Eric says that he's late for his job, which we all, like, dude, you just said it's your first paycheck. You need, and you're the manager's son. You need to get to work. Like, you won't have to stop for long if you keep doing it.
Know what, bro?
But he's already like, Eric is late. He says that Morgan is supposed to be tying his bow. And
the bow with his apron, yeah.
Yeah. Sorry. Eric. I can't even get through it. But
well, Eric is like, he's like, yeah, how's the bow coming? Or, like,
yeah, she's
help tying the bow.
No. I don't know how to tie a bow. And he goes, well, why did you tell me you could? She goes, because I'm self-confident. And I think
that's such a Morgan kind of answer. Like, Morgan's she doesn't have a huge evolution this incarnation of Morgan anyway.
Yeah.
But it's very much those kind of interactions, those one-like liners, almost a Michelle Tanner type of cutesy response. What's going on?
It's kind of like a Stephanie Tanner response. And what I mean by that is Morgan.
Oh, the sass.
It's sassy, but it's also it's above her age group as well. Or like, I guess it's a self-confident
100%.
that I really, really do love.
Well, Corey comes in because he wants to grab some popsicles for the guys because they start complaining. And then him and Eric are in there, and they're both starting to complain about work. And they're like, paint the shutters. And then Eric's like, spill an aisle 4. And they're kind of going back and forth with how awful work is. And it's interesting because, again, a few scenes ago, you had Corey begging to find a job, telling Eric how lucky he was that he had a job because he could buy his 90s Apple Watch or whatever it is. And now Corey's in that position where he's working, and they're like, man, I hate being an adult.
I know, but it's like,
Corey.
The reality of having a job is definitely just coming. And these are very familiar complaints that anyone who has worked will have. And like Corey's even seeing the hardship of management. Remember, he earlier asked if he could take his father's job as manager, and currently, right now, he's managing these workers and his friends, and they have to make them. They have to manage, and then Morgan
he comes out with the ice cream, like fudgesicles or something or whatever. And he gives them to the guys, and they're like, well, what flavor is it? And he's like, it's chocolate on the outside and vanilla on the inside, like it's been for 1,000 years. And Minka
just goes, I want a Heath Bar Crunch.
Yeah.
He goes to the guard, pulls some dirt on it, and goes, here you go, here's your crunch. And that breaks it for them. They're like, I don't like your attitude. And they leave for the water ward. Because again, when you are a manager, your workers can leave, but you're responsible for the work at the end.
Well, Corey kind of yells at Sean as they're leaving. He's like, I fed you guys, I paid you guys, I'm gonna sue you. And then Sean goes, sue me, have your lawyer call my mom.
Yeah. Again, we're definitely, now that I'm looking at it, we are definitely in like sitcom dialogue right now.
Yeah, I wrote down a lot of quotes because a lot of it seemed real. I don't know. I definitely feel that this show emulates the landscape of TGIF more so this season than the other season.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And I think this episode, because we didn't even do so much last episode. Last episode, it kind of set the foundation a little bit for where they wanted to go with the heart, but we weren't as Leave It to Beaver as we are right now.
Yeah.
And
totally.
It's not like it's bad. I've enjoyed every moment of it. But
it's just a different show. It's just different. And it feels like Boy Meets World's like, honestly, like 3 different shows. There are like 3 or 4 different shows that just by every like other season, it changes to a different type of show.
That's a very good point. So Corey goes back. He goes, if you want something done right, you have to do it yourself. He goes back to painting the fence, and Mr. Feeney comes out, and he goes, I sold my childhood to you for $58. Which again was a terrible. But then Feeney complains about there being paint on his side of the fence. And that's when it's just a little too much for Corey. He faints, and he just complains that he
lies down because he's overworked from stress-related injuries. He tells Alan, who finds him lying on the floor.
Exactly. And I really do enjoy it. But then Alan comes home. He sees that Corey's overworked, and he kind of complains that he doesn't want to do any more work. And Feeney tells Alan that his father believed in a strong work ethic, and look how
Feeney says, my dad worked me from sun up to sundown, and look how I turned out. Feeney walks inside. Alan immediately goes, I don't want you working anymore.
Exactly. But I think it's very interesting. One, you do have kind of an not really uncharacteristic moment of Feeney, but I think at this point in time, Feeney is a little less of the teacher and more of the neighbor. And they usually toe that line a little bit. Do we even get a Feeney in school outside of the water ward?
I don't think so. Not in this episode.
Yeah, so I think in this episode, Feeney is just the neighbor. And that's a dynamic in a world that he has his own, but it's just not one we're familiar of seeing with Feeney.
Yeah.
Anyway, what Corey has found out is he says Warco didn't do it. He borrowed money from Amy to buy more paint. He worked 2 days, painted 16 shutters and a fence. And he goes, you know how much money I made? I owe $8.
Alan says, well, that's what it feels like to be an adult or something like welcome to adulthood.
And this is, there could not be more truth than
that was a real, like, that was a hard truth pill to swallow. I was like,
that was so true.
Right.
When he was like, I owe $8, I was like, man, if you didn't learn a valuable lesson in that moment, that is like as real as you will get.
That is so real. Well, we kind of transitioned into the sweet moment where, like, Corey's like, you know, it's too bad that I won't make it to the water war. And then Alan's kind of, you know, he's listening to what Feeny just said, and he's looking at overworked Corey, and he's just kind of thinking to himself, he's like, you know, this kid deserves to be a kid. That's kind of what he's been saying the whole episode. So he kind of encourages Corey, you know, you can make it if you can run. And then Corey's like, isn't it my responsibility to paint this fence? And Alan says, it's your first responsibility to stay 11 years old as long as you can.
Exactly.
Which I just thought was a real kind of nice moment between them.
I think it's great because what we have and what we see is an overworked Alan who kind of wants his kid to... I think this is what we were talking about earlier, where it's like there's this nostalgia to be like, oh man, I remember when I didn't have any responsibility. And he sees his kid kind of taking on this role that he doesn't have to. Corey has an out. Corey isn't really required to do any of the things that Alan is. And I think that it's very much, it's a moment of Alan gifting Corey something that he can't give.
Well, yeah, and I think that, and though it's, I don't really think there's a moment that implies this, but I just feel like based on my knowledge of Alan, he would be proud of the idea that Corey worked for this water gun, and that this is his chance to use the water gun that he worked for. Like the fact that Corey didn't have to get a job, he didn't have to go around looking for a way to make money, but the fact that he did it himself, he earned it, and he achieved what he set out to achieve. I think Alan was really proud of the work that he was able to do, even though he wasn't able to finish it.
Yeah, you know, honestly, you're right. There is no specific moment that they acknowledge that the fact that Corey just earned what he wanted to do. They're just like, no, that's not the point of this. And they
don't really give him much street credit for that, but I feel like that's kind of a big deal, at least for Corey, because in the beginning of the episode, he seems to have no understanding of money, but due to his own search for a job, he learned the value of $1.
Yeah, exactly.
So he's really kind of his own Feeny in this episode.
Yeah, and I really, that's it. That was just good that you pointed it out. Anyway, Corey comes back from the water war, and Eric is also exhausted on his bed from working the shift, and he says he worked a half.
Well, Corey like drenches, and he like squeezes his shirt on Eric's face. It's like pouring water on his face with the shirt. And Eric is like, you know, I've been working all day.
No,
exhausted. I'm too exhausted to move.
He said he worked half of a shift, and that's actually.
Oh, that's right. He laughed.
He goes, I worked half a shift today, and I was like, boy, wait till you get a full 8 hours in. You're really
What Eric says, he's like, I worked half a shift, but I don't know how he does it. And Corey's like, who does what? And Eric's like, you know, Dad works these 12-hour days. He never sits. He eats his lunch standing up. He never takes a break. It's like he's not human. And Corey's listening to Eric say this while he's looking at the backyard, and Alan's painting the fence for Corey. And Corey's like, it's like he's Superman, which kind of goes, it's this big full circle moment where we kind of go back to the cold open of Corey saying he wants Superman as his dad, analyzing that in a way.
Immediately was like, I did not see that coming. I did not think that would come.
That's classic Boy Meets World right there.
Yeah.
Hey, this episode's kind of cliche. It's a little too cutesy, but you know what? We're bringing it back home.
Yeah, the moment I saw that, I was like, that was good. That was a nice little hidden layer. Anyway, so we go, and that scene we see, the family is eating dinner, and Corey comes up, and he's just like, Dad, I know you finished my work for me, and I know you finished your work for you, and you're hogging all the work. And it's a good little Corey moment. and he takes out a water gun from under the table and he sprays his dad. And he's like, I know that you said that you have to grow up from being 11, but maybe you could come visit for a little bit.
Yeah. And one of the things I do want to say, I don't know that we mentioned earlier, is that the water gun that Corey got for his Water Wars was this big, like, they called it like I wrote it down.
Yeah, I have it. It's the same one that 13th Black Kid had, which is, the Hydrosat
3000Z.
Yeah.
He traded his 3000Z for two 1500Zs. So I know that means gibberish to you people, but he traded his big water gun for two smaller water guns. So when he starts squirting Alan with the water gun, he's like, maybe you wouldn't feel that, because Alan starts like, oh, you don't do this at the dinner table. Corey, maybe you wouldn't feel that way if you had your own water gun or if you looked under the table. And that's where Alan finds the other water gun and they start squirting and having fun with each other.
Exactly. And it's just like this nice little wholesome moment of, Alan basically sacrificing his time so that Corey could have a childhood, but Corey also reminding Alan it's not too late to enjoy the little things as well. And I like this little balance. It was very, very cute. But then of course, how it kind of the episode ties and ends is Amy goes, visiting hours to childhood land are outside. And
well, it's really funny, yeah.
Corey goes, you would work that way if you looked under your side of the table. And she goes under the table and she feels that there's nothing there. And Corey's like, what am I, made of money?
Yeah, and these guys they had this big water fight. And in the epilogue, we see Morgan calling the police. She's like, 911. And she's like, oh, police officers? Yeah, my parents are outside fighting. Oh, I think they just shot the neighbor.
So what's really funny about that, and it's so funny that you mentioned this, because I wrote this note too, in the epilogue of this episode, Morgan calls 911, she says everything you just said, and I was like, that's a fun TV gag, but in reality, she's just ruined that night, because the cops are going to come, and like, for parents, it's just like, you have to deal with a bunch of stuff now. Like, they probably got like child services checking in on them. This very fun moment just turned really sour. Again, if you want to look at it in a realistic lens.
Well, I mean, if we were in actual Philadelphia, maybe, but we seem to be in this like fairy tale land of Philadelphia where like, kindly police officer is going to stroll by, call them by their first names and be like, oh, don't worry about it. It was just Morgan. Tell her I said hi. Like, it's a whole weird fantasy version of Philadelphia there.
I don't see that happening at all. I'm like, cops are showing up. It's going to be, they even play it like this is going to be a problem. And I definitely think that in reality, a cop came knocking on that door, because the first response is, of the operator is,
what's the address?
Yeah. So again, they're taking this very, very seriously. But all right, so that was the entire episode of On the Fence. And now we go to our section called Feeny Taught Me, where we talk about the lessons learned in this episode. TC, what do you got?
Money, obviously, I think is the main takeaway of this episode. More so Corey appreciating money, understanding what it takes to earn money. Like we said, he sought out employment on his own. He realized how stressful it was not only to have a job, but to be in a management type of position. He kind of went through the whole experience of what it's like to be in the workforce in a 2-day sitcom childlike way. I don't know. I think they did a really good job with it. What do you think?
So I was going to say, I completely disagree with you on what the lesson is here. I think the lesson is like, enjoy being a kid. I mean, I think the finance part, like the value of a dollar is very important, but I think the ultimate takeaway is that enjoy it while you can, like, especially since this is a kid's show. But also as an adult, like from an adult's perspective, it's like, yeah, you have responsibilities, but it's okay to shirk them.
Oh my gosh. Boy Meets World hitting us with lesson number 1, lesson number 2, and lesson number 3, which is appreciate your parents and the work that they do, my dad being Superman. Like, there's too many lessons for us in one episode.
Exactly. I know. I really like it. So, last bit is our grade for the episode. And what is your grade for this episode? What do you give it?
I am going to give this episode a B-. I think it is an okay episode, but I feel that there are better episodes. I feel that I don't know. It was just a little too cutesy for me. But that's just me. That's a word I keep using, but that's all I can describe it as. I don't know how.
It's funny that you say that because I originally gave it an A, but as we've spoken about it, I agree. I'm gonna give it a B+ because to me, it's not quite the minus, and I can understand why you would say so. But like the dialogue in this episode is a little too
great.
It's a little too traditional, and I don't know if you've seen Girl Meets World yet, but
I've seen a few episodes, but I mean, I don't want to talk about it too much because I haven't seen that much of it. But what I saw, I wasn't too impressed.
Well, so what I'm going to say is there are episodes where it is clearly traditional Boy Meets World episodes, and we get a lot of heart, and we get a lesson, and we get something like the Superman circle, where it's like, oh, this one thing that was like very silly and fun came back to have a lot of weight later in the episode. And then there are episodes that my roommate called the Disney episodes, which was that someone Disney board,
and that's, I feel like I only saw the Disney episodes of that show, maybe.
Exactly. And I think that that's what this episode was. This episode was a network episode where it was like we're giving the network what they need in order to keep us on to.
And this is bread and butter TGIF too. Like I can't think of a better like family half-hour entertainment than just this kid and his family trying to figure out money and life in Water Wars. I mean, it's so simple.
Exactly. All right. So, any other final words?
That was an okay episode. It was all right.
Yeah, it was good. I mean, I just have, you know what? I do have one thing to say. Just kind of tied up. We have a black kid with a water gun running around Philadelphia.
Oh, we should probably, you know what? Yeah, we didn't do the last episode, but we should probably do it for both of these kids. Let's do just a quick moment of silence for both Third Seat Kid in the pilot and Third Seat Kid in this episode. All right. Thanks, guys. Thank you for your work. Thank you for filling in that spot for these 2 episodes, guys. We appreciate it.
Exactly. All right. So, thank you guys for listening to the second episode of Bro Meets World. Make sure you follow us on Twitter and Facebook. We are on Stitcher and SoundCloud. And you can meet us at Bro Meets World or email us at Bro Meets World. No matter what, make sure you let us know what you think and meet us back for the next episode. You can meet me on Twitter at Extra Siege. That's XTRACEEJ. And TC, where can they find you?
You can follow me at my Twitter. It's called Anna Kendrick Retweets. Anna Kendrick RT is how you do that. I basically just retweet whatever Anna Kendrick tweets. Other than that, I don't really fuck with Twitter too much. But if you guys want to follow my fitness Instagram, it's called A Braver Me. You guys can do that. But other than that,
yeah, definitely check that out. I actually really enjoy your journey, and I think it's worth sharing. Okay, so we will see you guys on the next episode.
Remember to dream, try, and do good.
Dream, try, and do good, guys.
All right,
next time.
Dudes, bye.